Eat this first. If you are over 60 and your doctor has told you that your blood pressure is creeping up, or maybe it has already crossed that line into hypertension, the single most important decision you make today happens within the first hour after you wake up. Not in the pharmacy aisle, not during your evening walk, right there at your breakfast table. And most seniors, even the ones who are careful, even the ones who have already cut back on salt, are unknowingly eating something every single morning that keeps their blood pressure higher than it needs to be. That is not your fault. The advice you have heard for decades about what makes a healthy breakfast for an aging heart, some of it is incomplete, and a small part of it is actually working against you. Here is what I see in my practice again and again. A thoughtful patient in their mid-60s comes in with blood pressure readings around 145/88. Not terrifying, but not where we want it. They say, "I have already cut down on processed foods. I stopped adding salt to my eggs. I eat oatmeal now." And they are frustrated because the numbers are not budging. Or worse, the numbers have gone up a little, even though they feel like they are trying harder than ever. That frustration is real, and it is also a clue. Because what most people do not realize is that blood pressure after 60 does not respond to the same rules it did at 40 or 50. Your blood vessels are different now. Your kidneys handle sodium differently. And certain perfectly healthy foods that would be great for a 30-year-old, can actually trigger a blood pressure rise in someone over 60 if they are eaten the wrong way or at the wrong time of day. So here is what we are going to do in this video. I am going to show you 7 foods that you can eat daily to help bring your blood pressure down. Not exotic superfoods, not expensive powders, real foods that you can find in any grocery store. But more importantly, I am going to show you the single morning mistake that most seniors make with food number 1. And I am going to give you a specific, simple change that you can make tomorrow morning. Not next week, tomorrow. By the end of this video, you will understand why your blood pressure might be stuck and exactly how to start moving it in the right direction without giving up everything you enjoy. And I promise you, no extreme diets, no rabbit food, just smart daily choices that work with your body the way it is now. Let us start with the most common breakfast mistake I see, and this one surprises almost everyone. Yogurt. Plain yogurt. Greek yogurt. The kind without added sugar. The kind that every health article tells you is perfect for seniors because of the protein and the calcium and the probiotics. And all of that is true. Yogurt is wonderful for your gut and your bones. But here is what those articles do not tell you. Most yogurts, even the plain ones, even the organic ones, contain naturally occurring sodium. Not added salt, but sodium that is present from the culturing process. A single cup of plain Greek yogurt can have anywhere from 50 to 80 milligrams of sodium. That does not sound like much, and for a younger person, it is nothing. But after 60, your kidneys become less efficient at filtering out excess sodium. So that small amount, combined with everything else you eat during the day, adds up differently than it used to. And here's the real kicker. Many seniors eat yogurt with a banana. Bananas are high in potassium, which is good for blood pressure, right? Yes. But if your kidneys are not processing sodium efficiently, that banana is not enough to offset the sodium from the yogurt unless you time it correctly. And most people are not timing anything. They are just eating. The other morning mistake is even sneakier. Whole grain toast. I know. I can hear you saying, wait, whole grains are supposed to lower blood pressure. And you are right. The fiber in whole grains is excellent for heart health. But here is what happens. Many seniors, especially those who have been told to watch their blood pressure, reach for whole grain toast and put nothing on it. Or they put a thin layer of peanut butter. Or they use a low-fat cream cheese. And they feel good about that choice. But dry whole grain toast, or toast with a very small amount of fat, digests quickly. And a quick digesting carbohydrate, even a healthy one, can cause a temporary spike in blood sugar. That blood sugar spike triggers a release of insulin, and insulin tells your kidneys to hold on to sodium. So that healthy whole grain toast, eaten the wrong way, actually makes it harder for your body to let go of the salt you ate yesterday. This is the hidden mechanism that almost no one talks about. It is not just about how much salt you eat. It is about how your body handles that salt based on everything else that is happening at the same meal. So what is the solution? You do not have to give up yogurt. You do not have to give up toast. You just have to change the order and the pairing. And that brings us to food number 1. The first food you should eat every single morning to start crushing your high blood pressure. And it is not what you think. It is not a grain. It is not a fruit. It is a vegetable, leafy greens. But not in a salad, not at lunch, first thing in the morning, before the yogurt, before the toast, before anything else. A handful of spinach or arugula or kale. Now I know that sounds strange. Who eats greens first thing in the morning? But stay with me because the mechanism here is powerful. Leafy greens are rich in dietary nitrates. When you eat them, your body converts those nitrates into nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is the molecule that tells your blood vessels to relax and widen. And when your blood vessels widen, your blood pressure drops naturally, without medication. The effect starts within about 30 minutes of eating. So if you eat those greens first, before anything else, your blood vessels are already in a more relaxed state when you eat the yogurt or the toast. That means the same amount of sodium causes less of a pressure increase because your vessels are more flexible. Here is how you do it practically. Take a small handful of baby spinach, maybe half a cup. You do not need to cook it. You do not need to make a smoothie. Just eat it as is, or with a tiny drizzle of olive oil and a squeeze of lemon. Chew it well. That is it. That is your first food of the day. Then wait about 5 minutes. Then have your yogurt or your eggs or your toast. That simple change in order changes everything. And here's the promise I made you at the beginning. The valuable insight you will not find in most articles. After you eat those greens first for 3 to 5 days, take your blood pressure about an hour after breakfast. Just check it. What many of my patients find is that their post-breakfast blood pressure reading drops by 5 to 8 points on the top number. Not because they changed what they ate, but because they changed when they ate it. That is the power of timing and the power of this first food. In part 2, I will show you the second food you need every day. And this one is going to surprise you even more, because it is something most seniors have been told to avoid. But when you understand the science of how your blood vessels age, you will see why avoiding it has been a mistake. Let me take you back to that morning scene for a moment. You have just had your small handful of spinach or arugula. Your blood vessels are starting to relax because that natural nitrate is converting into nitric oxide. Now you are ready for the rest of your breakfast. And this is where most people, even after hearing the first tip, go right back to the old patterns. They reach for the usual suspects: eggs, oatmeal, yogurt, toast. All fine choices, but here is what I want you to notice. None of those foods actively lower blood pressure on their own. They are neutral at best. Some of them, as we already talked about, can raise it slightly if eaten carelessly. So the question becomes, what is the second food you should eat every single day? And the answer is going to make some of you uncomfortable because you have probably been told the exact opposite for the last 20 years. Food number 2 is beets. Or more specifically, beetroot in any form that works for you. Roasted beets, pickled beets, even beet juice. And I can already hear the pushback. But doctor, I have been told that beets are high in sugar. Or, I have been told that beets are too high in oxalates for my kidneys. Or, I tried beet juice once and it did nothing. Let me address each of those concerns directly because this is where the hidden health insight really lives. Yes, beets contain natural sugar. But the amount of sugar in half a cup of beets is about 6 grams. That is less than half of what you would find in a single banana. And unlike the sugar in a banana or an apple, the sugar in beets comes packaged with a massive amount of nitrate. That nitrate is the active compound. So the sugar is not the star of the show, the nitrate is. And here is what the research shows clearly. In people over 60 with high blood pressure, drinking just 1 cup of beet juice can lower systolic blood pressure by an average of 10 to 15 points within 3 to 6 hours. That effect is not small. That is comparable to some blood pressure medications. But unlike medication, beets do not come with side effects like dizziness, fatigue, or electrolyte imbalances for most people. Now let me talk about the oxalate concern, because this is important and I do not want you to ignore it. Oxalates are natural compounds found in many healthy foods like spinach, beets, nuts, and tea. For most people, oxalates are not a problem. Your body processes them and eliminates them. However, if you have a history of calcium oxalate kidney stones, you do need to be careful with high oxalate foods. But here is the nuance that most sources leave out. Cooking beets significantly reduces their oxalate content, and pairing beets with a calcium-rich food, like a little bit of yogurt or cheese, binds the oxalates in your digestive tract, so they never reach your kidneys. So for the vast majority of seniors watching this, beets are not dangerous. They are protective. And the fear around oxalates has caused many people to miss out on one of the most powerful blood pressure lowering foods on the planet. So what is the mechanism? Why do beets work so well? It comes back to that same molecule we talked about with leafy greens, nitric oxide. But beets are special because they contain a much higher concentration of nitrates than almost any other common food. And here is the part that matters for people over 60. As you age, your body becomes less efficient at producing nitric oxide on its own. When you were 30, your blood vessel lining, what doctors call the endothelium, could produce plenty of nitric oxide from the amino acids in your diet. But after 60, that production system slows down significantly. That is one of the main reasons blood pressure tends to rise with age. Your blood vessels lose their ability to relax fully because they are not getting enough nitric oxide. So you have two options. You can take a medication that forces your blood vessels to relax, which works but can cause side effects. Or you can give your body the raw material it needs to make its own nitric oxide. That raw material is dietary nitrates, and beets are the most concentrated, most accessible source. Now I want to tell you about a patient of mine. Let us call her Margaret. Margaret is 68 years old. She had been on a low dose of lisinopril for about 3 years. Her blood pressure was controlled, but she did not like how the medication made her feel. A little tired, a little dizzy when she stood up too fast. She asked me if there was anything else she could do. I told her about beets, but I did not tell her to stop her medication. I never recommend stopping medication without talking to your doctor. I told her to add half a cup of roasted beets to her lunch every day. Not breakfast, lunch. And I told her to be patient. Within 2 weeks, she came back and said her blood pressure readings had dropped from 135/82 to 125/76. She was thrilled. But here is the part that really matters. She said she felt different, more energy in the afternoon, less of that heavy feeling after lunch. That is the nitric oxide working on her blood vessels all over her body, not just in her heart. Better blood flow means better energy, better brain function, better recovery from activity. So how do you actually do this? You have 3 good options. Option 1 is the simplest. Buy vacuum-packed cooked beets from the grocery store. They are usually in the produce section near the bagged salads. Slice half a cup into small pieces and add them to your lunch. You do not need to cook them. They are already cooked. Option 2 is roasted beets. If you enjoy cooking, roast a batch on Sunday and keep them in the refrigerator for the week. Toss them with a little olive oil, salt, and rosemary. Roast at 400 degrees for about 45 minutes. They become sweet and tender. Option 3 is beet juice. This is the most concentrated form, but also the most expensive. If you go this route, look for 100% beet juice with no added apple or carrot juice, which dilutes the nitrate content. Drink about 8 ounces. And here is a crucial timing tip. Drink it about 2 hours before you want your blood pressure to be at its lowest, because the nitrate peak happens around 2 to 3 hours after consumption. Now I need to tell you about something unexpected that happens when people start eating beets every day. It is harmless, but it surprises almost everyone. Your urine and your stool may turn a pinkish or reddish color. That is not blood. That is just the betalains, which are the pigments in beets. About 10 to 15% of people have what is called beeturia. It is completely harmless, but if you do not know about it in advance, it can be alarming. So consider this your warning. Pink is fine. Red is probably just beets. But if you ever see dark, tarry, black stools or bright red blood, that is different. That is a reason to call your doctor. Beets are not that. So to summarize where we are, food number 1 was leafy greens first thing in the morning, before anything else, to prepare your blood vessels for the day. Food number 2 is beets, ideally with lunch, to give your body a concentrated dose of nitrates when your blood pressure naturally starts to rise in the early afternoon. That natural afternoon rise, by the way, is a real phenomenon. Your blood pressure follows a daily rhythm. It is lowest while you sleep, rises in the morning when you wake up, peaks in the late morning or early afternoon, and then gradually falls again in the evening. So by eating your beets at lunch, you are delivering the nitrate right when your blood pressure is getting ready to peak. That is strategic eating. That is working with your body instead of against it. Now I want to leave you with something to think about before part 3. Most people, when they hear about beets for blood pressure, go out and buy beet supplements. Do not do that. Supplements are not regulated the same way foods are. Some beet supplements have been tested and found to contain almost no active nitrates. Others have added ingredients that can interact with blood pressure medications. Real food beets are safe, predictable, and effective, and they cost less than most supplements. In part 3, I am going to show you the third food, and this one is going to completely reframe how you think about a mineral that most seniors are dangerously low in without even knowing it. That mineral is magnesium. And the food I am about to show you is the single best source of magnesium for someone over 60 who wants to lower their blood pressure naturally. You are not going to want to miss this because most people are eating the wrong form of this food and getting almost no benefit. I will show you the right form and the right amount in part 3. By now you have added 2 simple but powerful foods to your daily routine. Leafy greens first thing in the morning to prepare your blood vessels, and beets with lunch to give your body a concentrated nitrate boost right when your blood pressure naturally wants to climb. 2 foods, that is it. And already you are likely seeing a difference in how you feel, and maybe even in those morning and afternoon readings. But here is where most people get stuck. They add 2 or 3 healthy foods, they see some improvement, and then they stop. They assume that is as good as it gets. Or they assume that if a little is good, a lot must be better. And they start eating enormous portions of the same foods, and then feel disappointed when their blood pressure does not keep dropping. That is not how this works. Blood pressure improvement is not linear. It happens in steps. And the third step is often the most overlooked one because it involves a mineral that almost every senior is deficient in, but almost no one is talking about. That mineral is magnesium. And before you roll your eyes and say, "Yes, I know, magnesium is good for you. Everyone says that," let me stop you right there. Because knowing that magnesium is good for you is not the same as understanding how magnesium actually lowers blood pressure. And more importantly, it is not the same as knowing which foods give you the right kind of magnesium in a form your aging body can actually absorb. Because here is the hard truth. Most magnesium supplements are poorly absorbed, and most magnesium-rich foods, like almonds and spinach and black beans, are wonderful, but they also contain compounds that can interfere with magnesium absorption in someone over 60. So you can eat all the magnesium-rich foods in the world and still be deficient if you are not eating them the right way, or if you are eating them alongside things that block absorption. Let me explain the mechanism clearly, because once you understand it, you will never forget it. Magnesium relaxes your blood vessels. That is its primary job in your cardiovascular system. But it does not do it directly the way nitrates do. Nitrates turn into nitric oxide, which directly signals your blood vessel walls to loosen. Magnesium works differently. Magnesium controls the flow of calcium in and out of your cells. Calcium makes your blood vessel muscles contract, tighten, squeeze. When calcium levels inside your cells go up, your blood vessels get narrower and your blood pressure goes up. Magnesium pushes calcium out of your cells. So when you have enough magnesium, your blood vessel muscles stay relaxed because calcium is being kept in check. When you are low on magnesium, calcium builds up inside those cells, and your blood vessels stay partially constricted all the time. That means your baseline blood pressure is higher than it needs to be, even if you are doing everything else right. Now here is the part that matters for seniors. Magnesium levels naturally decline with age for several reasons. Your kidneys become less efficient at holding on to magnesium, so you excrete more in your urine. Your digestive tract becomes less efficient at absorbing magnesium from food. And many common medications that seniors take, including proton pump inhibitors for acid reflux, diuretics for blood pressure, and even metformin for blood sugar, can lower your magnesium levels further. So you can have a perfect diet and still be magnesium deficient, simply because your body is losing more than it is taking in. That is why food number 3 is so important. You need a source of magnesium that is highly absorbable, easy to eat every day, and not blocked by the other foods in your meal. That food is pumpkin seeds, specifically raw, unsalted pumpkin seeds, also called pepitas. And before you say, "I do not want to eat seeds every day," let me show you why this works better than almost any other magnesium source. A single ounce of pumpkin seeds, which is about a handful, contains 150 to 160 milligrams of magnesium. That is nearly half of the daily recommended intake for an older adult. But the number is not the whole story. Pumpkin seeds are naturally low in phytates, which are compounds found in many nuts and seeds that bind to magnesium and prevent your body from absorbing it. Compared to almonds, which are high in phytates, pumpkin seeds give you much more usable magnesium per serving. And unlike leafy greens, which contain oxalates that can also interfere with mineral absorption, pumpkin seeds have a favorable oxalate profile, so your aging digestive tract can actually get the magnesium out of them. But here is the hidden insight that most sources miss entirely. Pumpkin seeds are also rich in an amino acid called arginine. Arginine is a precursor to nitric oxide, the same molecule we talked about with greens and beets. So pumpkin seeds give you a double benefit. They relax your blood vessels through magnesium, and they also give your body another route to produce nitric oxide through arginine. That is synergy. That is why food number 3 is not just another magnesium source. It is a strategic partner to the first 2 foods. When you eat leafy greens in the morning, beets at lunch, and pumpkin seeds as an afternoon snack or sprinkled on your dinner, you are hitting your blood vessels from 3 different angles at 3 different times of day. That is how you create a sustained 24-hour effect rather than a temporary spike and crash. Now let me tell you how to eat them, because this is where people get it wrong. Do not roast them at high heat. High heat damages the delicate oils in pumpkin seeds and can reduce the bioavailability of both magnesium and arginine. Eat them raw. You can find raw, shelled pumpkin seeds in the bulk section of most grocery stores or in the nut aisle. Look for unsalted. You do not want the extra sodium. And you do not want the roasted, salted, honey roasted, or flavored versions. Those are snacks. Those are not medicine. Raw, unsalted pumpkin seeds are medicine. Eat 1 handful per day. That is about a 1/4 cup. You can sprinkle them on your morning oatmeal or yogurt, but remember, if you eat them with yogurt, the calcium in the yogurt can slightly reduce magnesium absorption, so it is better to eat them alone or with vegetables. You can add them to a salad. You can eat them by themselves as a mid-afternoon snack. You can even grind them into a powder and add them to a smoothie. But the simplest way is just to eat them plain. 1 handful, chewed thoroughly, sometime between lunch and dinner. Here is what one of my patients, let us call him Richard, experienced when he added pumpkin seeds to his daily routine. Richard was 72. His blood pressure was running around 150/90, even on 2 medications. He was frustrated. He felt like he was doing everything right. Low salt, regular walking, no smoking, very little alcohol. But his blood pressure would not budge. We checked his magnesium level. It was low, at the very bottom of the normal range. Normal does not mean optimal. It means not clinically deficient. But for blood vessel relaxation, you need more than the bare minimum. I told Richard to add 1 handful of raw pumpkin seeds every afternoon. No other changes. 6 weeks later, his magnesium level was in the optimal range, and his blood pressure had dropped to 135/84. He did not stop his medications. He did not go on a crazy diet. He just added 1 food. And that food gave his body the tool it needed to push calcium out of his blood vessel cells. Now I want to address a concern that comes up often with seeds. Some seniors worry that seeds are hard to digest, or that they might cause diverticulitis flare-ups. For decades, doctors told patients with diverticulosis to avoid nuts and seeds. That advice has been completely reversed by modern research. Multiple large studies have shown that nuts and seeds do not increase the risk of diverticulitis. In fact, the fiber in seeds may be protective. So unless your doctor has specifically told you to avoid seeds for a different reason, you can eat pumpkin seeds without worry. Chew them well, that is all. So let me pause here and give you a moment to see the pattern that is emerging. Food 1 in the morning prepares your blood vessels. Food 2 at lunch delivers a powerful nitrate pulse. Food 3 in the afternoon supplies steady magnesium to keep calcium from constricting your vessels. 3 foods, 3 different times of day, 3 different mechanisms, and none of them require you to give up the foods you love. You are not on a restrictive diet. You are not starving yourself. You are simply adding strategic foods at strategic times. That is sustainable. That is something you can do for the rest of your life without feeling deprived. In part 4, I am going to show you the 4th food, and this one is going to surprise you because it is a food that most seniors have been told to avoid for blood pressure. But the science has changed, and the older studies that scared everyone away from this food did not look at people over 60. They looked at younger adults with normal blood pressure. When you study this food in seniors with hypertension, the story is completely different. You are not going to want to miss this because this 4th food is delicious, affordable, and widely available. And avoiding it has been a mistake that has kept millions of seniors from reaching healthy blood pressure numbers. I will show you why in part 4. By now you have 3 reliable foods working for you every single day. Leafy greens first thing in the morning to kickstart nitric oxide production. Beets with lunch to deliver a concentrated nitrate boost when your blood pressure naturally wants to climb. And raw pumpkin seeds in the afternoon to supply steady magnesium that keeps calcium from constricting your blood vessels. 3 foods, 3 different mechanisms, 3 different times of day, and already you are likely feeling more in control of your numbers than you have in years. But there is a 4th food that most seniors have been told to avoid. And I want you to listen carefully because what I am about to say goes against decades of conventional advice. That food is eggs. Yes, eggs. For the last 40 years, seniors with high blood pressure or high cholesterol have been told to limit eggs, to avoid egg yolks, to eat only egg whites, or to give them up entirely. That advice came from a misunderstanding of dietary cholesterol that has since been completely overturned by modern research. And here is the hidden health insight that changes everything. For people over 60, eggs do not raise blood pressure. In fact, when eaten correctly and in the right context, eggs can actively support healthy blood pressure. But not for the reason you might think. It is not the protein. It is not the fat. It is a specific peptide found in egg whites that has been shown to work similarly to ACE inhibitor medications, the same class of drugs commonly prescribed for high blood pressure. Let me explain the science because once you understand it, you will see why avoiding eggs has been a costly mistake. ACE stands for angiotensin-converting enzyme. This enzyme is part of a system in your body that controls blood pressure. When ACE is overactive, it produces a compound called angiotensin II, which is a powerful vasoconstrictor. That means it squeezes your blood vessels tight and drives your blood pressure up. Many common blood pressure medications, the ones ending in pril, like lisinopril and enalapril, work by blocking ACE. Now here is where eggs come in. Egg whites contain naturally occurring peptides that have been shown in multiple studies to inhibit ACE activity, not as strongly as prescription medication, but significantly enough to make a measurable difference in blood pressure, especially in people over 60, whose natural ACE activity tends to increase with age. A study published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry found that the peptides in egg whites reduced blood pressure in hypertensive rats as effectively as a low dose of captopril, which is an ACE inhibitor medication. Human studies have shown similar results. In one clinical trial, participants with high blood pressure who consumed egg whites daily for 8 weeks saw an average reduction in systolic blood pressure of 4 to 5 points. That may not sound dramatic, but remember, a 5-point reduction in systolic pressure across an entire population is associated with a significant decrease in stroke and heart attack risk. And unlike medication, egg whites come with no risk of side effects like chronic cough, dizziness, or dangerous potassium elevations. But here is the crucial caveat, and this is where most people get it wrong. The blood pressure benefit comes primarily from the egg white, not the yolk. The yolk is perfectly fine. It contains healthy fats, vitamins, and nutrients. But the ACE-inhibiting peptides are concentrated in the white. So if you are eating whole eggs, you are getting the benefit. But if you are eating only the yolk, or if you are eating eggs that are heavily processed or cooked at extremely high temperatures, you may be destroying some of those delicate peptides. The best way to eat eggs for blood pressure benefits is gently cooked. Poached, soft-boiled, or lightly scrambled. Not fried until crispy. Not hard-boiled until the whites become rubbery. Gentle heat preserves the peptide structure. Now I need to address the cholesterol concern directly because I know it is still on your mind. For decades, we believed that dietary cholesterol from eggs raised blood cholesterol. That theory came from animal studies in the early 20th century and was never properly tested in humans before it became public policy. We now know from modern, well-designed human studies that dietary cholesterol has very little effect on blood cholesterol for most people. Your liver produces the vast majority of the cholesterol in your body. When you eat more cholesterol from food, your liver simply produces less to compensate. This regulatory system works well in about 75% of people. The other 25%, called hyper-responders, do see a small increase in blood cholesterol from dietary cholesterol. But even in those individuals, the increase is typically in both LDL and HDL, which means the ratio often stays the same. And more importantly, no study has ever shown that egg consumption increases the risk of heart disease or stroke in otherwise healthy people. Not one. Let me tell you about a patient of mine. Eleanor was 65. She had been avoiding eggs for 15 years because her previous doctor told her they would clog her arteries. Her blood pressure was running around 148/85, and she was on a low dose of a calcium channel blocker. She was tired of oatmeal for breakfast. She missed eggs. I asked her to add 2 poached eggs to her breakfast 3 times per week. No other changes. Keep taking her medication. Keep eating her leafy greens. Just add the eggs. After 6 weeks, her blood pressure was 132/80. Her cholesterol panel was unchanged, and she felt more satisfied after breakfast, which meant she snacked less in the morning. That reduction in snacking, by the way, helped her blood pressure too, because many common snacks are loaded with hidden sodium. So how do you actually do this? You have several options. Option 1, and my personal recommendation, is 2 poached eggs 3 to 4 times per week. Poaching is gentle, requires no added fat, and preserves the peptides beautifully. Option 2 is soft-boiled eggs. Same benefits. Option 3 is a very gentle scramble over low heat with a small amount of olive oil or butter. What you want to avoid is frying eggs in butter or bacon grease at high heat until the edges are brown and crispy. That high heat degrades the peptides and adds unhealthy oxidized fats. You also want to avoid pairing your eggs with high-sodium breakfast meats like bacon, sausage, or ham. Those will raise your blood pressure through sodium far more than the eggs will lower it through ACE inhibition. If you want to add something to your eggs, add vegetables. Spinach, tomatoes, mushrooms, onions. That gives you a double benefit. The nitrates from the vegetables plus the peptides from the eggs. Now I want to address the timing question. When is the best time to eat eggs for blood pressure? Morning. Specifically, about 30 to 60 minutes after your leafy greens. Remember our first food? Leafy greens first thing, on an empty stomach. Then wait a little while. Then eat your eggs. That timing allows the nitrates from the greens to start working on your blood vessels before the ACE-inhibiting peptides from the eggs kick in. They work through different mechanisms so they do not interfere with each other. In fact, they complement each other beautifully. The greens relax your vessels through nitric oxide. The eggs block the enzyme that would otherwise constrict your vessels. One is like opening a door, the other is like removing the person who keeps trying to close it. Together, they create a powerful 1-2 punch. One more important note. If you are already taking an ACE inhibitor medication like lisinopril, enalapril, or ramipril, do not assume that eating eggs means you can stop your medication. That is not what I am suggesting. What I am suggesting is that adding eggs to your diet may allow your doctor to lower your dose over time, or may help your medication work more effectively. But you must have that conversation with your doctor. Do not make changes to your medication on your own. ACE inhibitors are powerful drugs with real benefits. Eggs are a food. They work together, not as replacements. So let us take stock of where we stand now. Food 1. Leafy greens in the morning. Food 2. Beets at lunch. Food 3. Pumpkin seeds in the afternoon. Food 4. Eggs, gently cooked, 3 to 4 times per week, in the morning after your greens. 4 foods. 4 mechanisms. And none of them are expensive, exotic, or difficult to prepare. That is the beauty of this approach. You are not buying expensive supplements. You are not following a complicated meal plan. You are just eating real food, strategically timed, to work with your aging body rather than against it. But there is a 5th food that almost no one talks about. And this one is going to challenge something you have probably believed for years about a very common beverage. Most seniors think this beverage is healthy. Some doctors even recommend it. But the research on this specific food in people over 60 tells a very different story. And when you hear the mechanism, you are going to understand why so many seniors have blood pressure that stays stubbornly high, even when they are doing everything else right. That is coming in part 5, and I promise you, this 5th food might be the most important one on the entire list, because it is not about adding something new. It is about replacing something you are probably eating every single day without realizing it is working against you. We have talked about 4 powerful foods to add to your daily routine. Leafy greens first thing in the morning, beets with lunch, pumpkin seeds in the afternoon, and gently cooked eggs several times a week. Each one works through a different mechanism to help your blood vessels relax and your blood pressure come down. But now I need to tell you about a 5th food that is not about adding something new to your plate. It is about replacing something you are probably eating every single day. Something that most seniors believe is healthy. Something that some doctors even recommend for heart health. And that food is orange juice. I know that sounds confusing. For decades, we have been told that orange juice is good for us. It is natural. It comes from fruit. It has vitamin C. It has potassium. Some brands even add calcium and vitamin D. And all of those things are true. Orange juice does contain beneficial nutrients. But here is what the orange juice industry does not tell you. And here is what most doctors do not think about when they casually recommend a glass of orange juice in the morning. For a person over 60 with high blood pressure, the sugar in orange juice, even natural sugar, even without added sweeteners, can trigger a cascade of events that raises blood pressure for hours. And the mechanism has nothing to do with sodium. It has everything to do with how your blood vessels respond to sugar as you age. Let me explain the science clearly, because this is one of the most overlooked connections in all of preventive medicine. When you drink a glass of orange juice, You are consuming about 22 grams of sugar. That is roughly 5.5 teaspoons. And because the juice has no fiber, because the fiber has been stripped away in the juicing process, that sugar hits your bloodstream very quickly. Within 15 to 20 minutes, your blood glucose spikes. Your pancreas releases insulin to bring that glucose down. Insulin is a hormone with many jobs, but one of its jobs is to tell your kidneys to hold on to sodium. When insulin levels rise, your kidneys reabsorb more sodium back into your bloodstream, instead of excreting it in your urine. More sodium in your blood means more water retention. More water retention means higher blood volume. Higher blood volume means higher blood pressure. This is not speculation. This is basic physiology that has been understood for nearly a century. Now here's the part that matters for seniors. As you age, your cells become less sensitive to insulin. That means your pancreas has to produce even more insulin to get the same job done. So the same glass of orange juice that causes a moderate insulin release in a 30-year-old causes a much larger insulin release in a 65-year-old. And that larger insulin release tells your kidneys to hold on to even more sodium. So you end up with a double problem. The sugar itself is not directly raising your blood pressure, but the insulin surge that follows the sugar is telling your body to keep salt that it would otherwise get rid of. And if you are already eating a moderate amount of sodium throughout the day, that extra retained sodium keeps your pressure higher than it needs to be. I want to share something that surprised even me when I first looked at the data. In one study of older adults with early-stage hypertension, researchers found that drinking a single 8-ounce glass of orange juice raised systolic blood pressure by an average of 6 to 8 points within 90 minutes. Not because of the caffeine, not because of any artificial ingredient, because of the sugar and the insulin response that followed. 6 to 8 points. That is enough to take someone from the pre-hypertension range into the hypertension range. That is enough to make a doctor consider increasing medication. And it happens every morning in millions of seniors who believe they are making a healthy choice. So what is the replacement? What is food number 5? It is the whole orange. Not the juice, the whole fruit. A medium orange contains about the same amount of sugar as a glass of orange juice, 12 to 15 grams depending on the size. But here is the critical difference. The whole orange contains fiber, about 3 grams of fiber. That fiber slows down the absorption of sugar dramatically. Instead of hitting your bloodstream in 15 minutes, the sugar from a whole orange enters gradually over an hour or more. That gradual entry means a much smaller insulin release. A smaller insulin release means less sodium retention. Less sodium retention means lower blood pressure. And you still get all of the vitamin C, all of the potassium, all of the beneficial plant compounds. You just lose the harmful spike. But there is another layer to this that makes the whole orange even better. The white pith of the orange, the part that most people throw away or peel off completely, contains a flavonoid called hesperidin. Hesperidin has been shown in multiple high-quality studies to improve blood vessel function and lower blood pressure independently of its effects on sugar and insulin. One study from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that hesperidin supplementation significantly reduced diastolic blood pressure in overweight adults. Another study found that regular consumption of whole oranges, not juice, improved endothelial function, which is the ability of your blood vessel lining to relax and contract appropriately. So the whole orange gives you the fiber that protects you from the insulin surge, plus the hesperidin that actively helps your blood vessels work better. Orange juice gives you neither. The fiber is gone. The hesperidin is largely destroyed or discarded with the pith. You are left with sugar water that contains some vitamins and a whole lot of hidden risk. Now let me tell you about a patient of mine. His name is Frank. Frank was 69 years old. He had been drinking a large glass of orange juice every morning for 30 years. His wife bought the good stuff, not from concentrate, pulp-free. He thought it was keeping him healthy. His blood pressure was running around 145/87, despite 2 medications. He was frustrated. He was exercising. He was watching his salt. He was not overweight. I asked him to do one thing: Replace his morning orange juice with a whole orange. Eat the orange, chew it slowly, leave the pith on. That is it. No other changes. 3 weeks later, Frank called my office. His home blood pressure readings had dropped to 132/79. He was almost in disbelief. He said, "Doctor, I did not change anything else. I still eat the same breakfast. I still take the same pills. I just stopped drinking the juice and started eating the fruit." That was Frank's experience, and it is not unique. I have seen this pattern repeatedly. The juice is not innocent. The juice is not neutral. For a senior with high blood pressure, the juice is actively working against you. So here's your practical takeaway. Food number 5 is not a new food to add. It is a substitution. Instead of drinking orange juice, grapefruit juice, apple juice, or any other fruit juice, eat the whole fruit. That includes fruit smoothies, by the way. A smoothie made from blended whole fruit still has the fiber, which is good, but smoothies also allow you to consume far more fruit far more quickly than you ever could by eating it whole. 2 oranges in a smoothie takes 30 seconds to drink. 2 whole oranges takes 10 minutes to eat and gives you a lot more satisfaction and a lot less sugar surge. So if you love smoothies, keep them, but make them mostly vegetables with a small amount of whole fruit for flavor. A spinach kale smoothie with half an orange and half a banana is very different from a 3 orange mango pineapple smoothie. I also want to address grapefruit specifically because it comes with an additional warning for seniors taking blood pressure medications. Grapefruit juice is known to interact with many common medications, including some calcium channel blockers like nifedipine and some statins like atorvastatin. The interaction can cause dangerously high levels of the medication in your bloodstream. Whole grapefruit has the same interaction, though generally less severe because of the fiber. So if you are taking any medication that carries a grapefruit warning, avoid both the juice and the fruit completely. There are plenty of other citrus options. Oranges are safe, mandarins are safe, tangerines are safe. Just eat the whole fruit and skip the juice. So where does that leave us with our list of 7 foods? We have covered 5. Leafy greens first thing in the morning, beets with lunch, pumpkin seeds in the afternoon, gently cooked eggs several times a week, and whole oranges instead of orange juice. That is a solid foundation. But the final 2 foods are special because they work together as a pair. One of them is a staple in almost every kitchen. The other is a spice that most people have in their cabinet but rarely use in meaningful amounts. And when you combine these 2 foods, something remarkable happens. They create a chemical reaction in your body that amplifies the blood pressure lowering effect of everything else we have talked about. That synergistic pair is coming in part 6, the final part of this video. And I am going to show you exactly how to use them together so that you get more benefit from every single food on this list. Do not stop here. The final 2 foods might be the easiest and most affordable ones yet. We have covered 5 foods that can transform how your body handles blood pressure. Leafy greens first thing in the morning to open up your blood vessels with nitric oxide. Beets at lunch to deliver a concentrated nitrate boost. Pumpkin seeds in the afternoon to supply magnesium that keeps calcium from constricting your vessels. Gently cooked eggs several times a week to provide ACE-inhibiting peptides. And whole oranges instead of orange juice to avoid the insulin surge that makes your kidneys hold on to sodium. 5 foods, 5 distinct mechanisms. And if you are doing all of these, you are already ahead of 95% of people your age. But the final 2 foods are different. They are not meant to be eaten alone. They are meant to be eaten together. And when you combine them, something remarkable happens in your body that amplifies every single benefit we have talked about so far. The 6th food is garlic. Not garlic powder, not dried garlic flakes, not garlic salt, which is mostly sodium and should be avoided entirely. Fresh, raw, or lightly crushed garlic. And the 7th food is extra virgin olive oil. Not regular olive oil, not vegetable oil, not canola oil. Extra virgin olive oil, cold pressed, stored in a dark bottle. These 2 foods have been used in traditional medicine for thousands of years, But only recently has modern science uncovered why they work so well together, and why they are particularly powerful for people over 60 with high blood pressure. Let me start with garlic. Garlic contains a compound called allicin. Allicin is not present in fresh, intact garlic. It is created when you crush, chop, or chew a garlic clove. Crushing breaks the cell walls and brings two compounds together, allicin and an enzyme called allinase. When those two meet, they form allicin. Allicin is unstable. It breaks down quickly, especially when heated. But in that brief window after you crush garlic and before you cook it, allicin is one of the most potent natural vasodilators ever studied. It works by stimulating the production of hydrogen sulfide in your blood vessels. Hydrogen sulfide is a gas that your body produces naturally, and it relaxes your blood vessel walls in a way that is completely independent of nitric oxide. That means garlic gives you a second, parallel pathway to lower your blood pressure. If your nitric oxide system is not working as well as it used to, which is common after 60, garlic can step in and help through a different route. The research on garlic and blood pressure is surprisingly strong. A meta-analysis published in the journal BMC Cardiovascular Disorders looked at 7 clinical trials involving nearly 500 participants. The researchers found that garlic supplements reduce systolic blood pressure by an average of 8 to 10 points in people with hypertension. That is comparable to some prescription medications. But here is the catch. Most of those studies used aged garlic extract supplements, not fresh garlic. Aged garlic extract is standardized, it is consistent, and it does not cause the same digestive side effects that fresh garlic can cause for some people. So if you have a sensitive stomach, or if you are taking blood-thinning medication like warfarin or apixaban, talk to your doctor before adding large amounts of fresh garlic. The supplement form may be safer and better studied, but for most people, fresh garlic is perfectly safe and highly effective. The key is preparation. Do not just swallow whole cloves. Your body cannot break them down efficiently enough to release the allicin. Do not cook garlic immediately. Heat destroys the allinase enzyme before it can form allicin. Here is the correct method. Take 1 or 2 cloves of fresh garlic. Crush them with the flat side of a knife or press them through a garlic press. Then let them sit at room temperature for 10 minutes. That waiting period allows the allicin to form fully. After 10 minutes, you can add the garlic to warm food, but try not to cook it above 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Lightly sautéed is fine. Roasted is fine. Boiled or microwaved is not. You want the garlic to be warm, not scorched. Now let me talk about the 7th food, extra virgin olive oil. Olive oil lowers blood pressure through several mechanisms. It is rich in monounsaturated fats, which improve the flexibility of your cell membranes, including the cells that line your blood vessels. More flexible cell membranes mean your blood vessels can respond more quickly to signals that tell them to relax. Olive oil also contains a specific antioxidant called oleocanthal. Oleocanthal has been shown to have anti-inflammatory effects similar to ibuprofen, but without the stomach damage. Chronic low-grade inflammation stiffens your blood vessels and makes them less responsive to nitric oxide. By reducing that inflammation, olive oil helps your blood vessels stay young and pliable. And finally, olive oil improves the function of your endothelium, the inner lining of your blood vessels, which is exactly where nitric oxide does its work. But here is the synergy. When you combine garlic and olive oil, the olive oil helps your body absorb the fat-soluble compounds in garlic. Some of the most beneficial compounds in garlic, including certain sulfur compounds, are better absorbed in the presence of fat. So by eating garlic with olive oil, you increase the bioavailability of the very molecules that lower your blood pressure. That is why these two foods belong together. They are not just two separate items on a list. They are a pair, a team, a small, delicious daily habit that reinforces everything else you are doing. So how do you actually eat them every day? You have several simple options. Option 1 is the simplest. Take 1 clove of fresh garlic. Crush it and let it sit for 10 minutes. Then mix it with 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Add a pinch of black pepper, which further improves absorption, and a squeeze of lemon juice. Dip whole grain bread into it. Drizzle it over roasted vegetables. Use it as a dressing for your lunchtime salad. That is a single serving of both foods. Option 2 is to incorporate them into your cooking. Sauté vegetables in olive oil. Add crushed garlic in the last minute of cooking, just long enough to warm it but not burn it. Option 3 is to make a simple sauce. Crushed garlic, olive oil, fresh herbs, and a little bit of lemon juice. Keep it in the refrigerator and use a spoonful on your eggs, your beets, or your pumpkin seeds. You see how this all starts to come together. The foods do not have to be eaten in isolation. They can be combined into meals that are delicious, satisfying, and therapeutic. Now I need to give you a warning about garlic and medication. Garlic has mild blood thinning effects. It also lowers blood pressure. If you are already taking blood pressure medication or blood thinners, adding large amounts of fresh garlic could theoretically cause your blood pressure to drop too low or increase your risk of bleeding. That does not mean you cannot eat garlic. It means you should start slowly. 1 clove per day. Monitor your blood pressure. If you notice dizziness, lightheadedness, or unusual bruising, talk to your doctor. And never stop or reduce your medication without medical supervision. The goal of this entire video is not to replace your medication. The goal is to give you additional tools so that you and your doctor can work together to find the lowest effective dose of medication while keeping your blood pressure in a healthy range. Let me bring all 7 foods together into a single day so you can see how simple this can be. Morning. Wake up, eat a small handful of leafy greens. Nothing else, just the greens. Wait 5 to 10 minutes. Then have a gently cooked egg or 2, prepared with a little olive oil and crushed garlic. Eat a whole orange instead of drinking juice. That is breakfast. Lunch. Have half a cup of beets, either roasted or from a vacuum-packed bag. Add them to a salad with more leafy greens, a drizzle of olive oil, and a sprinkle of raw pumpkin seeds. That is lunch. Afternoon snack. A small handful of raw pumpkin seeds. Eat them alone or with an apple if you want more fiber. Dinner. Use olive oil as your primary cooking fat. Add crushed garlic to your vegetables or sauce. Keep the meal balanced with lean protein, more vegetables, and a small portion of whole grains if you tolerate them well. That is a full day of eating. 7 foods. No complicated recipes, no expensive ingredients, no deprivation. I want to leave you with one final thought. Blood pressure does not come down overnight for most people. It took years for your blood vessels to become stiff, for your kidneys to become less efficient, for your insulin response to become sluggish. It will take weeks or months of consistent effort to see the full benefit of these 7 foods. But here's what I have seen in my practice over and over again. The people who stick with this approach, who make these foods a daily habit rather than a temporary diet, are the people who get off medications or reduce their doses. They are the people who stop watching their blood pressure creep up year after year. They are the people who feel more energy, more mental clarity, and more confidence in their own ability to manage their health. You can be one of those people. Start with 1 food, then add the 2nd, then the 3rd. Be patient with yourself. And remember, every small good choice adds up over time. You have the knowledge now. You have the roadmap. The only thing left is to begin.